I had like some revelations. I feel like when I tell this story about how I started, I started in this waterfall type atmosphere. I did have that like Steve Jobs stigma to me, right? I love the fact that I was called a manager. I love the fact that I love that title. I love the fact that I thought I was the person who was creating all these designs and coming up with all these ideas. And the first time I ran into a problem was with that is when I had a team at Open Sky of incredibly smart developers. They're probably the best team I ever worked with. And they just didn't put up with that, right? They were like, no, we're not going to build this, or no, this is too hard. And they just pushed back. And it made me really, I never had that pushback before, right? And it made me reconsider what is my role. And the first person who was super influential there with me was my boss, Chris Keene. So he was the VP of product at Open Sky. And Chris basically took me aside and just said, you know, we know you're smart, we know you can do this, but you got to figure out how to get the developers on your side. Like, you got to figure out how to influence a team and go out. They were based in Nashville, so we were remote. He was like, go out, talk to them, sit with them, get to know them. And that was some of the best advice I have ever gotten. And when I started taking a step back and realizing it was about, you know, it was about the team, it wasn't just about me, and he pushed me to do that, that really changed my entire perspective about what did it mean to be a good product manager. So I was still using, you know, I was still doing the designing, I was still doing the ideas, but it was our responsibility together to come up with those. And it was my responsibility to make sure that it was actually achieving the goals, and it was actually good design for our clients, and it was also the right things to be doing at the right time. But that didn't mean that it was all about my ideas. So that was the first time I got a really good understanding of that role piece. And I think Chris shaped that a lot. Along the way too, one of the biggest changes for me, and I think one of the most pivotal points in my career, and what made me end up in the kind of consulting and coaching style that I do today, was this concept of the lean startup and of agile. So that played a big role into how I thought about what I was building and why we were building it. So I went to a lean startup machine workshop. I read Eric Ries's book back in like 2012. And when I did this, it just made me go, oh, you know, I was frustrated because I wasn't getting the feedback that I thought I would be when I put my designs out there. Like, people weren't using it. It wasn't as good as it should be. And I couldn't figure out what was clicking. And the whole concept of just testing things and understanding and making it a hypothesis, like, blew my mind. And the whole lean startup movement by Eric Ries and the people who were part of it, like Jeff Goffolf, like, they really shaped how I approached my position as a product manager. And at the time too, I felt like we were very concentrating on the startup pieces of that, and it was all about like building new companies. But for me, just those principles and those qualities really made me reconsider how I did my job internally at companies as well. And that really pushed me to start experimenting. So I took all that back to Open Sky. I had a lot of buy-in from the company and from my boss, Chris, to try new things, to up my skills, to learn more, to do experiments, to test things, to make sure we were doing it. And he's the one who really pushed me to start teaching it as well. So that's how I ended up teaching. He was like, go teach it on Skillshare. I'll help you promote it. And yeah, he kind of drove me into where I am right now.